The first thing we're going to do with this spaghetti sauce is we're going to take our eggplant, and through the magic of editing, we're going to peel it, cut it up into bite-sized pieces, and now we are going to throw it in water to soak while we do everything else. Now what this does, this softens up the eggplant and helps it absorb the sauce later on. Now you're going to see as this soaks, the water will turn black. Don't worry, this is normal. Now, take an onion, take a bell pepper. Once again, we edit and boom, it's cut up. Now in your pot, you add some olive oil to the bottom, just enough to cover the bottom. You don't need a whole lot, and then you're going to add your onion and your bell pepper, and you want to cook that down to where bell pepper is completely done and the onions have turned clear. This way you'll know they're ready to go. Now once they get to that point, after you're going to stir some more, make sure you don't let it burn. Once you get to the point where everything's nice and clear like that, you're going to take some either fresh garlic like I've done and chop it up, or you can buy pre-minced garlic. Doesn't really matter. It works the same way, but I decided to do it by hand. And you're going to mix that in there. Make sure you get it all off the knife. You don't want to lose any of that garlic. Now make sure you stir that real well. You're going to let that garlic fry down real well. Get as much flavor out of it as you can. Again, all this is olive oil, onion, bell pepper, and once that part's done, you add your garlic. You can add your garlic later if you want, but this way it roasts a little bit and you get more flavor out of it. Now, time for our tomato products. This is just tomato sauce, and how much you use depends on the size of your pot. Now in this pot I'm using 4 cans, because that's all it takes. You know, if you have a bigger pot, obviously you use more. And if you have a smaller pot, you use less. That's, I don't give exact amounts of my ingredients because, your needs vary. But this is just a basic go-to. Now, with every can, you add some water, a little bit, swish it around, and you rinse out the can into the pot. Now this is going to cook down. These tomato products are going to reduce. So you're going to add a lot of water to this. Now at this point, you're going to add your diced tomatoes. And again, you rinse out the can with a little bit of water, swish it around, and pour that water in the pot. Now you get all that stirred around, and you're going to have this on a medium to medium-high heat. Make sure you don't let the bottom of that pot burn your tomato sauce. Later on, you're going to be almost constantly stirring this. And I'm going to show you a technique that'll keep it from burning on the bottom. Now it's time to add our seasoning. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put in some salt, and we're going to add our black pepper. And we're using kosher salt, so we'll need a whole lot. And then we're going to put some black pepper in it. I like pepper, and this is all seasoned to taste. Like I said, I'm not giving you any amounts of what, because you might like more pepper, you might like more salt, or less pepper, less salt. It's totally up to you. Make sure that's all nicely incorporated. Now here comes the Italian seasoning. I use a lot of Italian seasoning because I like the Italian seasoning. Again, I'm not giving you an exact amount because you know your taste, you know what you like. This is just a general guideline. Now, we go to the tomato paste. And we use this to thicken the sauce. I like a nice thick sauce. So, we're going to get all the tomato paste out of the cans. Make sure you rinse off your spoon in the sauce. Get as much of that tomato in there as you can. Now, if you don't like the tomato flavor, you can always add sugar and kind of reduce that tomato flavor, but I love that tomato flavor. I really think that tomato flavor and it just adds so much to this. Now I'm going to show you the stirring technique that I use. What you do is you run I used to do this with a boat paddle in a very large vessel, and I'll explain that in a little while, how, where I got this recipe. You want to run it around the corner at the bottom of the pot and then go back and forth scraping the bottom. This keeps that tomato from burning on the bottom of your pot. So you go around the rim, scrape across, and like I said, I used to do this with a boat paddle in a large vessel. We called this rowing, and you'd row all the way to Grand Chenier. Now, you're going to bring that up to a low boil. And you're going to let it sit there for a while. Now you're going to add your eggplant. And this is the part that takes a long time, because you've got to cook that eggplant long enough for it to get soft. I mean, like really, really soft. And it'll start to absorb that sauce. And you're going to change your stirring technique once it gets to that point. But for right now, you get it all in the sauce. Make sure you get every bit of that eggplant in there. You don't want to leave none of that behind. And then and notice the utensil I'm using here, the cooking spoon I'm using, is flat back and flat tipped. Flat tip, you already know, it's for scraping the bottom of the pot. Now, again, you do your stirring technique, but watch this. You're going to use the flat part of the back of that spatula spoon deal I've got, and you're going to kind of squish the eggplant up against the side of the pot. And what that does, it makes that eggplant, once it gets to that soft point, act like kind of a sponge. When you let the eggplant go, it kind of expands out and draws more of that sauce in there, and gets more of that flavor into that eggplant. And you're going to want that. Now, I know there's a lot of people saying, I can't eat eggplant. I don't like eggplant. If you're Scott from Kentucky Ballistics, you think nobody likes eggplant. But this way, you'll never taste that eggplant the way we do this. You squish, and then you scrape that back down in there, and you see how much different that looks? You can't even hardly tell it's eggplant. You just keep on squishing it. And you keep doing this. You're almost constantly stirring. And you're going to have to be doing this for at least, in a pot this size, at least an hour. It's going to take you an hour to get that eggplant right. But it's worth it, trust me. And the smells this makes are so unique. Oh, it just smells absolutely wonderful. Again, stir, scrape, squish. Let's start over. Stir, scrape, and squish. I decided to add a few bay leaves to it. It's not going to hurt it in the least. Now, notice I said this is a meatless spaghetti sauce. And when I'm uploading this, it's Lent. This coming weekend will be Palm Sunday for the Catholics out there. And the reason I'm uploading it this weekend does have a meaning. I'll explain at the end why I'm doing it this way. Now, at this point, everything is cooked down. Everything is cooked down. It's ready to go. This has been cooking for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. In all reality, it is ready to serve. We just have to cook our pasta. But while that's going on, you have to just constantly keep stirring so you don't burn it. Now, you're going to put this on a really low heat while you do it. And while we cook our pasta. And just keep squishing it like that. And once we have our pasta done, we can put it in a bowl, and here is the final result. Oh, that looks so delicious. Now, I want to explain where this recipe came from real quick while we have a minute. When I was raised Catholic in a church called St. Joseph's Catholic Church. And every year on Palm Sunday, or the day before Palm, we actually did it on Saturday, we would have what's called the St. Joseph's table. And it came from, it was Lent, no meat was allowed during Lent. And on the St. Joseph's table, there was no meat allowed on the table. Well, we found this recipe. Um, it's a adaptation of a 500-year-old Sicilian recipe, and I've been making this since I was a teenager, about 14 or 15 years old, and it's just absolutely delicious. I mean, I hope you get to try it. I hope you decide to try it. Like I said, don't let the eggplant fool you. So, it's very, very good. And I want to thank you for coming along and watching. Uh, I enjoyed making this. I hope you enjoy making it too. As always, God bless and be good.